want to get to know Father Paul Robinson, and he has come, well, this morning all the way from Goulburn, which is a bit of a drive, and outside of Sydney. But even further, you've come from Kentucky, USA.
That's correct.
A while ago. So
yes.
Please let us know. So you're not from Australia. Where are you from?
So I'm from Louisville, Kentucky. It's the biggest city in Kentucky. It's got about, 700,000 people. Very small compared to Sydney, of course. But so I was ordained in 2006, and then I spent my first 3 years as a priest in St. Mary's, Kansas. It's just a remote town in Kansas where my order has a big school and actually a tertiary institute as well, where I taught for 3 years. And then my superiors told me, we want you in Australia. So I came here in 2009. I've been here ever since, teaching at a seminary there in Goulburn.
Fantastic. Oh, fantastic. Yeah. So you've been a priest now how many years?
12 years.
12 years.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Fantastic. Were you brought up a Catholic all your life? Were you born?
Yes, I was born and raised Catholic. Okay. Yes, cradle Catholic, for which I'm grateful. It was really my grandfather was a huge influence. My mother's father, a huge influence in keeping the faith, and he was very apostolic as well. Yes. So whenever I find these apostolic people like yourself, people at Perusia Media, yes, it reminds me of my own grandfather's zeal for the faith.
Oh wow! Oh, fantastic. And so you would have brought up as a family and practiced throughout their life a cradle Catholic, and
yes,
and did you and you really did you go into the seminary straight out of school? Were you? I did not.
So I attended uni in my hometown. Okay. After graduating from secondary. I became an engineer. I got a master's in engineering, engineering, computer science, and mathematics. And then 2 years after that, I entered the seminary. So I don't know. I guess it's a different path for everybody. Engineers are very mathematical. They want to work everything out on paper. And the vocation question, growing up as a Catholic, I always knew that was the most important decision in my life. That God has a plan for all of us. And we really need to figure out what His will is. And there's two main choices. Does He want me to be a priest, or does He want me to be married? Those two vocational paths, and that I need to discern that. But my error, I would say, is that I thought I could sort of construct a flow chart, and you put in the input, and you just follow the path and you discern it sort of on your own. Yeah. And I realized that no, you really to find the will of God, you've got to enter the seminary and have your vocation more or less discerned for yourself by people who are in a position to really evaluate the signs for your vocation. Mm-hmm. You can't do that on your own, and you're not going to get a phone call from God,
Really?
No. Yeah.
I thought you would.
While you're in the seminary, obviously it's a path of discernment. It's not just getting there. It's a path of discernment. That's while you were there.
Right.
Did you ever feel at any point that wasn't your calling, and were you ever challenged by that? Because you see so many people enter the seminary but not continue on, and that's not necessarily a bad thing because that's part of the process. That's how they had to find out. So did you ever have any doubts that this was your calling?
In fact, I did not. I mean, I would say it's more normal for people to have doubts. My difficulty was just getting to the seminary, reaching that stage where I realized that I'm not going to be able to figure this out on my own. I really need to go to a seminary and have my vocation discerned. Once I made that step, and I said, I've got to quit my job. I enjoyed my job. I've got to figure out what to do with my house and all these affairs. And I packed things up and I went to the seminary. But like I remember just sort of a month after being there, it just sort of hit me like I'm in the right place. I think I'm in the right place. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess. It's something important. Those watching or listening, there's probably men out there and women who have a vocation to religious life. What tips could you give anyone like that who is thinking, or maybe have been mentioned? Is it even an option? Where do they begin to discern what God is doing for them? If people are getting that sort of tug or advice, you should be a priest or you should be a nun. What tips could you give some of our people out there listening?
Well, I mean, I think the main thing I would like to point out is just as Mark was saying just now, is that the vocation is a discernment. Mm-hmm. So you're not really committing yourself to that life by entering a seminary or entering a convent. You're just committing yourself to offer yourself and see where the discernment leads. So I think a lot of people have the impression that if they enter the seminary, then it's a definite thing and it's for life and so on. But all that you're saying when you enter the seminary or the convent is that you have reasonable grounds to think you might have a vocation,
Yes.
and you want to know whether
Yes.
God wants that, and so you put yourself, you go to the seminary or the convent, and you really objectively learn the will of God by doing so. And there's nothing lost by that. Even if you spend 1 year, you spend a couple years, and you find out it's not your vocation, by being there at the convent or the seminary, you will learn a spiritual life. You will learn important aspects of Catholic doctrine, and you will go away enriched, and you will be a better mother or father afterwards.
Yes.
So it's really, I think you can't really lose as such by trying your vocation.
I think that's a great advice.
So do I. Always try God first.
Salwa, she's sitting next to me. She told me that very advice before I joined. I joined the seminary in 2003.
Okay, yes.
In 2002, Salwa always said, you can try the seminary, you can't try marriage. So you've got to give it a shot.
That's right.
And with that, I had peace, and I went for it, and spent a year in Sydney and about 6 months overseas in Lebanon, and then discerned. And I know for sure now I've got a vocation to marriage, and thanks be to God, God's blessed us with 7 children, and,
Wonderful.
and away it goes.
Wonderful.
And sort of once you give your life completely to God, He makes it clear, doesn't He?
Yes, He does.
What He wants for you.
He
So
does.
it's
He
a
really
great
does.
tip. So if you're watching, just give it a go. Go to the seminary or a convent and discern, because you never know what God wants from you. Just to make sure, 100%. Excellent advice.